watch this?
How?
Ew,
How do you watch this? Dude, I'm gonna pee my pants.
Hi, you're listening to How Do You Watch This, a movie review podcast where each week we pick a movie to watch. We pick a movie for the other to watch in the genre we love, but they don't.
Yeah.
My name is Demi, and I love horror.
My name is Megan, and I love romance.
And this week I had Megan watch the movie Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Yes.
A A24 slasher Gen Z movie.
Common thread TBD. Demi is going to try to guess next week, and it's going to be a really hard one. I don't think she's going to get it because I have no faith in her. So
now I'm going to try extra hard.
Yeah.
So.
I am going to give a subtle hint this week, but I'm not going to tell you when I'm giving the hint. So
okay,
maybe you'll get it when you listen back.
Okay.
Anyway, genre mystery slasher comedy as well. I would actually say more like mystery comedy probably, but the slasher deserves to be in there. There's some blood. The director is Helena Rain. Sorry, I watched an interview with her just so I could figure out how to say her name because I wanted to say it properly. She's Dutch, so that helps. There's a couple of names that I meant to listen to, actors' names, and guess who didn't? Me. I got distracted. The movie was released in 2022, and it is currently available on Netflix, which is where I watched it. That is not a plug. I am not happy with Netflix right now.
We don't like Netflix.
No. Netflix is on my list. I have to make my mommies just tell me what the code is every 2 weeks so I can get in.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because I don't live in her house, and I'm not happy with it. They just
my dad is paying extra for little old me.
Oh, of course he is. Am I shocked? No. Am I still trying to get on his good side? Yes.
To be fair, my brother didn't want it first, so he was like, you can have it. And I'm like, oh, just because I'm out of the house and married doesn't mean I'm responsible?
Shake my head.
I still need passwords from you, please.
You're still a little girl. I'm just a baby.
I'm just a baby. I don't have any money.
So my snapshot is pretty short because there is so much that goes on in the film, and I think we can break it down a little bit more as needed. So I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty immediately.
And it's only like an hour and a half. It's a short movie.
It is. So Bodies, Bodies, Bodies takes place in a mansion in the middle of nowhere. A group of rich 20-somethings are gathered, pulling what feels like a very Gen Z-themed party, which is a hurricane party, because I guess they're about to get a hurricane, and that's very exciting. Over the course of the night, the group becomes increasingly intoxicated with a variety of drugs and drink. Things go sideways when the host, David, comes to the back door with his throat slit. From there, accusations are thrown around regarding the identity of his murderer. With the power out and no way to leave the isolated home, the group is forced to fend for themselves as more and more people die. B kills Greg in a move of supposed self-defense. Emma is pushed down the stairs, or did she fall? Alice is shot in the head during a tug-of-war over a gun. Jordan is pushed off a balcony after a power struggle, again over a gun. And soon only B and Sophie remain. They are fighting when they find David's cell phone and see an unreleased TikTok he was filming where we see that he accidentally slit his throat with a sword. The movie ends with the mysterious eighth guest, Max, showing up at the house again. So that's the movie. So much happens, and I was really befuddled the whole time watching it, trying to figure out who could be the murderer, because I was like, I can't imagine it being anybody. But more people are dying, more people are dying, and I'm like, there has to be something going on. But as more people are dying, I was expecting it to be like very obvious murders, like more slit throats, things like that. But people are dying in like strange ways. So you know, you have B who commits a murder because she's trying to protect herself. You get Emma. Who you're not really sure what's happening. So everything is like, it just seems like things are escalating more and more and more, and you're like kind of unsure who the original murderer was, like what's really going on. And then when it was revealed that it was an accident, I was like, I can't even believe it.
Dude, I laughed so loud. When I saw that, I was like, there's no fucking way that David just idiotically just killed himself.
Right.
And the whole thing just escalated.
I couldn't believe it. And then part of me was like so mad at myself for not even guessing that, because I was like,
right.
How, you don't think how that can happen.
Yeah, it's very hard to guess that, because the movie does a good job of, this group of friends. So to start from the beginning, Sophie was a part of the group of friends. She went to rehab and she comes back with her new girlfriend, B. And from there, you can tell there's like some weird tensions between them all. And then there's like this guy, Greg, who's like a 40-year-old dating Alice. And they don't know anything about Greg. And David is like feeling jealous of Greg, because Greg's like this cool guy. And he just jealous of him,
and
so,
everyone
like,
thinks he's hot and shit, and he's like,
I mean, he
is.
He's played by Lee Pace, so but yeah, so then like you're kind of picking at things. You're like, okay, like it could be this and this, and so like with David, it's so random, and it happens at like a right moment too, because they're playing the game bodies. There's one killer and you're playing in the dark and you have to kind of run around, and then when you the killer taps someone on the back, they play dead. And then when you find a body, you say bodies, and then you guys talk. So any deception game like Mafia or Werewolf. So it happens around that point when they're like playing and the lights go off, and then they find David, with his throat slit.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a reason to believe that maybe Greg did it, because Greg is the outsider.
Yeah.
And then they brought up Max as maybe the murderer, because he wasn't there yet, and they thought maybe he could have come while they were playing.
Right. That's like at that point I was like, it has to be either Greg or Max. And then we see that Greg is laying with like a light mask on his face and like music playing and stuff, and I was like, it has to be this random guy Max. Like that has to have been who it was.
Yeah.
And I was very upset when Greg was murdered by B, because
same. I felt bad.
I know. At least every other death in the movie was like avoidable, yes, but causing like this moment of chaos.
Yes.
Whereas his was like, it was unnecessary.
Because they like, so they come up to him with like knives and shit, thinking, but he had his headphones in, like he didn't hear shit. So he's kind of like thinking they're playing with him. And then he manages to get a knife from one of them and is like, what the fuck's like going on? And then the group thinks he's like a vet. like
God,
military.
like a war vet. Yeah.
Oh, Mom.
Ruby, I know. You're also
She's
outraged
so excited.
by this. She's like, I can't believe they thought he was a war vet. He was clearly a veterinarian.
Yeah, so that's what Alice was like. He's a veterinarian. And they're like, why'd you call him G.I. Joe then? She's like, hello, have you seen him? And Alice just has the best quotes.
Alice is my favorite character.
Oh my God.
She was amazing. She was so funny. She said, what did she say at one point? Hold on, I wrote down one of her quotes.
She's played by Rachel Sennott?
Don't know.
I think she's like a comedian, more like a comedian.
Oh, okay. She said at one point, and I quote, in a scene where they are asking her how long she's known Greg, and she's like, a long time, like a really long time. And they're like, how long? And she's like, I don't know, 2 weeks. And they're like, what do you even know about him? And she was like, quote, he's a Libra moon, and that says a lot. And she's also saying how, like, no, she doesn't know his middle name. You don't talk about that so early, but she knows his moon. I thought that was so funny.
It's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, she just says the funniest shit.
Yes.
And the part where they're all, like, escalating over the gun. And the one character, so when you're the murderer, you have an X on, like, a piece of paper. That's when you pick it out. So the one character, Jordan, is taking stuff out of her pockets, and the X falls out, and Alice is like, I knew it, you're the killer, you're a fucking bitch, you're a bitch, I knew it. And she's like, in the game I was the killer, not in real life. Then of course things escalate further in that scene.
Way worse. I do want to say really quick, my almost deleted scene. So I originally was going to say that my deleted scene was the second kettlebell hit to Greg's head, because that felt abusive. But I am actually gonna say that it's the introductory makeout scene.
That is mine as well, yeah.
It's just, the amount of tongue and the slurping noises.
It shocked me. When I first started watching it, I was like, what am I watching? Like, this is why I don't watch slashers with young people.
No,
like
exactly.
An old person.
I was like, Demi, why are you forcing me to watch a porno? I cannot.
I was gonna, like, let you know, like, hey, it opens up like this. Yeah. Ignore it. Yeah. And I was like, I'll just let her.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I did, and experience it. I did. I was like, I wish I could enjoy this, but no part of me is like.
It was just like they were just making out. And
they were just making out. Hardcore.
Close up. It was like.
It was it like starts on their freaking tongues, and then it like zooms out to just their heads. And I was just like, I don't want to watch people make out.
I think that should have been deleted.
Yeah.
I am an ally, though.
I know. I was like, I want to make it abundantly clear. It's not because it was two girls kissing. It's because of the fact that people were kissing. I would have hated it regardless of.
Yes.
If it was two girls, two guys, a mix of anything in between. I know.
And those two girls are Sophie and B, and they're played by Sophie's played by Amandla, which is a cute little take on Amanda Stenberg, and you might remember as Rue from the Hunger Games.
Oh my god!
I know. I was like, oh my god,
she's all grown up.
And she is going to play a main character in the Star Wars Acolyte series.
Ooh,
so,
interesting. Is that going to be canon or is it legend?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I've been out of the loop with any Star Wars stuff because I'm like,
they've done us dirty a few too many times.
Yeah,
so.
But I am interested in that one, so I will be watching it. And then B is played by Maria Bakalova, and people might know her from Borat too. She plays the daughter.
Oh, really? I've never seen any of the Borats.
Bless her soul for putting up with some of the most awful fucking shit, because it's just crazy. Those movies are crazy. But yeah, Brett was the one I pointed out. He was like, oh, like, isn't she like Borat's daughter?
Really? Oh.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my god, that is her. And she also plays Cosmo the dog in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Aww, yeah. That's cute.
So those are those two. And of course, Pete Davidson plays David.
And he's been punched in the eyeball, which gives him a black eye.
Yeah, yeah. And his character is just like a hot mess.
Yes. Capital H, capital M.
I think everyone else I don't really recognize other than Lee Pace.
They're all like lesser known.
I mean, these are all young people.
Right.
So
they have some history, but not like a crazy. None of them are like child actors or.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows Pete Davidson because of his failed, relationship.
And SNL.
Yeah, that too. But you know what's a real bummer? That Max, we didn't get to see more of him, because I thought the little bit of that character, Connor O'Malley, I thought he was attractive. But I actually am gonna maybe make you delete that because I'm gonna look to see how old he is.
37.
He's 37. It's okay. We can keep it in.
No, he was cute. He was cute.
I was like, oh my god, watch. He's in his like early 20s. I can't have that.
I think all the actors were at least like mid 20s.
Yeah, so he was in it for like 30 seconds and I was just like, oh, you're attractive.
Oh, hi Max. Can you imagine?
No. Because here's
the end. How to
I thought about that entire movie, which was like, all I could think about was like, imagine explaining this to the police. Imagine explaining this. You say, just like immediately after Greg's death, I was like, there's officially no coming back from it, because.
I think B killing Greg is already like, all right, you're done. Yes. Emma, it seemed like she might have fallen on the steps. I believe that she did, because she was doped up, like she was gone, and right before that scene Sophie gave her some pill, something to get her high, and so I do believe that Emma fell to her death,
despite the fact that Sophie is an unreliable source.
Yes,
she is a liar.
Yes, because of Jordan.
Yes. Okay, so they make this point about yellow underwear, where as they're walking through Jordan's room, B sees this lacy yellow underwear and this like bra, and she kind of like looks at it, and they make a comment about like the murderer not hiding in the bra or something. Later, when B is relegated from the house and is in the Jeep, she finds the matching underwear to that bra. And then we find out further on in the movie that Jordan says Sophie had called her up for a fling, like right before the party. And so that's probably what the underwear is from, and will not admit to it to B. But it seems like that has to be what happened. Like, how else
I
is
think so.
her underwear in the car? So we know that she's not truthful. So it does make you kind of be like suspicious of her. But I don't really think she has a reason or a motive to kill Emma.
Yeah. I think Sophie is a flirt and a bad person in that way.
Yes.
It seems like she kind of had a relationship with like everyone at some point.
Yeah.
Like, or at least flirting with. They had some weird flirty relationship.
Yeah.
And I think B knew. Once Jordan brought up, like, hey, like, check her text, I think B already kind of knew from seeing the underwear.
Yeah.
And then that's why they were fighting at the end over the cell phone, and they ended up fighting David's cell phone.
But yeah, so to go back to it, though, I wanted to make all of Greg's death scene be different. Like, I would have rather it have been more accidental, because I hate how he was killed. But at the same time, it did cause me to suddenly become suspicious of B, where I'm like, is it her? Is she the one? Even though we were watching her as she was going up the staircase, and we were seeing her discover David's body, and it was no way it could have been her because it's raining outside and whatever. All of a sudden, I'm like, was it her? Is she the one?
She reacted quick.
Yes.
And then, like a little too quick.
Right. And she also did this other weird thing later on, where after she killed Greg, she threw up on herself, because obviously. And she goes upstairs and gets changed, and she puts on this random sweater that she found. Yeah. She doesn't get her clothes. She gets someone else's clothes.
And she puts like some makeup on.
She puts makeup on, which is weird. Yeah. So when they're like, hey, that's weird that you're doing that, I was like, yeah, that is weird. I would be very suspicious of her.
Yeah, and B, like, the whole time, and I think she's just kind of like not used to this type of environment and hanging out with people like this, but she was a little off. Like, she was like really shy and just kind of like responding weirdly, but she also has a very difficult life, like with her mom. So her mom has borderline, which is personality disorder, and so it seems like she takes care of her mom a lot. So it seems like that's just all related to how she responds to people and acts with people, but she was just very different from everyone else. So it's easy to be like, maybe it is B.
They find out that she lied about having a job, and she lied about where she went, like going to school, and
that whole conversation just like makes me laugh. She's like, I was working at Game Hut, but they closed my location. And I wanted you to think I was still like working there, and she would just hang out in the food court after getting dropped off at the mall, and it's just like, I'm like, what is this conversation?
But then it's like amazing when she says that her mom has borderline, and Alice is like, yes, mental health matters, and you know, I have body dysmorphia, and Jordan's like, shut up, that is not the same thing. I was like, oh my god.
No, Alice is just so funny. I think she improv'd a few lines too.
I wouldn't be surprised. It was like very, very well done. It's interesting that no part of me was like suspicious about this like sword thing, because
I know
at first, like when the sword champagne, I was so uncomfortable, because I was like, there's a sword, I don't like that. I don't think you ever watched the TV show Emily in Paris, but in that TV show, there is a scene in like season 3 or whatever where the one guy is trying to show off and open the champagne bottle with a sword. And they're like practicing because he's going to do it on camera. And then they start rolling the camera and he chops his thumb off. Oh. And I know. So it's immediately dangerous. I'm uncomfortable. I'm like, no, someone's going to get hurt. Yeah. And so that was bad. And then watching the TikTok at the end where this was me like watching through my fingers. I couldn't. I was like, I know what's about to happen.
He tries to do it like a few times. Yeah.
Oh my freaking God. And it's raining, it's slippery, it's pouring out, like it,
and he's like drunk and high. Like
yes.
everyone is like high and drunk.
Yes. And not just like weed high, like cocaine high.
Yeah, yes.
Pills
like heavy
high.
drugs.
Yes.
Heavy
They are
drugs.
doing everything. And you can see the environment that they're in because, first of all, they do not share at all that B. So B has had some drinks and whatever, and that's fine. And then she's eating this cake. And then she's like halfway through eating this huge amount of cake. And they're like, oh, by the way, there's weed in there. Like, just so you know.
Yeah.
What? I would have been livid. Livid.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not a good situation. And they all lose signal on their phones when the power goes out. So they don't have any phone service. And
the car battery is dead because I knew this was going to happen because at the beginning, B goes back into the car and like looks in the mirror, and then they do this really subtle, really, really subtle zoom where it's like only fractionally zoomed into the fact that the thing was left open, and you're like, this is going to play a
the
part.
light on the mirror. Yeah.
So the battery's dead in the car. They have no Wi-Fi because the power went out. They have no service because they're in the middle of nowhere. And I thought to myself, I was like, what? There's literally nothing you can do in that situation.
Yeah. Finding David dead, and this group's already a little unstable.
Yeah.
And they just start accusing each other very quickly.
Yes.
And it is like supposed to be just satire on like what happens when you don't
don't
have phone access. Like what happens to a group of Gen Zers when they lose that access to their phone. They're just stuck together in a house.
In space, and they lose it. They cannot handle it. And that's where I was like, so I basically gave myself a 7 for the if I would survive. Because I lean heavily towards I would survive because I would not have been placed in any of these situations. I have good communication skills. I don't do drugs. I might have had like a cocktail. And then
there's no way I would have been fucking bombed. Like there's no way.
No. And then I also know all my friends well enough that if I'm away in a mansion, God, one of you is very wealthy, and we're in a mansion in the middle of the woods, like we would figure it out. Like we would talk to each other. It wouldn't be like if it was like no one had claimed to do it. I know all of you. I'm not afraid that I'm around a murderer.
Yeah, listen, if one of our friends brought someone, an older man that apparently was in the military, we check his bag and there's a map of the house and it's circled, like very weird shit, I'd be like, okay, maybe there's something here. But then if I saw him with the headphones in and stuff, I'd be like, I don't think this man would have had the time to like go out, kill David outside, and go back in and like, relax.
Right. And if he was like with his headphones in or whatever with the light mask on, I would probably find a way to bar him into that room so he can't leave.
Right.
And then I would hide myself as a group into one of the other rooms of the mansion and barricade yourselves in there and wait until morning.
Right.
Like you just need to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can't.
I think things escalated more when Emma was found dead, because at that point it's like, okay, what the fuck's going on here? No one can tell if she fell, because Sophie didn't say anything. Right. They pretty much found her dead, and they just assumed someone killed her and that there's a killer in the house.
And Sophie was too afraid that everyone would think she murdered her, so she didn't want to say anything. And this is after Sophie is sober, so she has been to rehab and whatever. So she just fell off the wagon. She's drinking, she's doing drugs, she's doing all of it, and fully off her path that she was on. And everyone's upset about it, and that doesn't help. And then, so she's medicated. She's very inebriated. Then Emma goes up and starts trying to make out with her, which was weird. That was a weird thing. And Sophie was like, you think everyone's just in love with you? And I was like, well, that's fair. Like, yeah, that was a good insult, I guess, because her boyfriend was just murdered, supposedly, and that was something she chose to do. It was weird.
Yeah.
And then Sophie gives her pills. And so you're like, I guess if Sophie was in enough of a weird headspace, she could go and push her. But I don't think so. But I do think that that's when things start to really go.
Because then people start thinking B was the one who is the murderer. They kick her out. And then she sees Jordan grab a gun. And so...
Yeah. Then all hell breaks loose. And it's like, I was like, come on. Don't bring firearms into the situation. Because, of course, Alice gets shot in the leg by accident. And it's kind of funny. Like, it's not good, but it's kind of funny. She's basically, there's this fight going on between Jordan and Alice where they're arguing, and essentially you learn...
Jordan doesn't like her podcast.
Right. She hate listens. And then Alice is going, like, shooting back at her, and then literally Jordan shoots her in the leg because she's mad, which is pretty messed up.
Yeah.
And then Alice just keeps screaming, my leg, which is fair. I'm sure it's very painful.
It's very fair, yeah.
But as you're watching people wrestle for a gun, I'm like, that's never what you should do. Never wrestle for a gun. Like, unless...
It was all 4 of them.
Yes. And then it's just like, it's like chaos, and all of a sudden a shot goes out, and you're like, which one of you is dead?
Yep. And the way Alice died, the way she was laying there, is the way she pretended to die when they were discussing the bodies game.
Interesting.
So it's the same position and location.
Yeah. Honestly, that game feels like a game that I could have seen myself playing as now as an adult. Like, I'm not running around a house. First of all, none of us have a mansion to hide around.
Yeah.
And, like, you're not.
No.
That's not happening. No. But I could see myself thinking that was, like, a really fun game when I was younger. Now I would be more like, we're all at a table and we're pretending we died. But...
Yeah, and after all these movies, I'm like, I don't think I trust any of you motherfuckers. Like, I'm not running around in a dark room trying to hide. The game is based on a real game just called Body or Murder in the Dark. So it's the same idea.
Okay.
If you're picked as the murderer, you have to tap someone in the back. They die, and then if you find them, you yell out body. So
okay.
I think the director said that she would play that, and she's a big fan of mafia and werewolf and stuff, so she also had the actor to play that to kind of get into the idea of deception games.
Right. And it is something that we've talked about this on the podcast in the past, like deception games do really test your friendships, because suddenly people that you've trusted for years and years, you're like, not a word coming out of your mouth is accurate.
I don't believe you.
And it's funny watching the scene where they're talking, because it felt very much like when they're fighting, when the very beginning, when they're doing the recap after it, I was like, this is exactly what it sounds like when we play, when we play one of our deception games together, where it's literally like, Megan always talks so loud, like, why are you talking so loud and being defensive, or whatever, and then they're commenting on the way someone's swallowing and the high pitch and whatever. And so I'm like, it's exactly what you do.
Or like, so-and-so's been real quiet this game.
Yes.
Guess they're the murderer.
Exactly.
So you can't win. Like, you have to really
you can never win. And we always have, I mean, they didn't play this trope out because I think we have friends who are actually just like agents of chaos who will be like, it was me. I was the murderer. And you're like, why would you do that?
Yes. I think because I've never been I'm not yelling and like competing a lot ever, so I think it's like, for me, I can hide back a little and it's not as suspicious. But
I get annoyed because
being good is harder than being bad, and I say that all the time. Like,
really?
I feel like I win more when I'm like bad.
I feel like it depends on the game, the deception game, because if you're playing a deception game like Werewolf and you're a villager, sorry, this might be a deep dive for some people listening, but if you're a villager, you have no special abilities. It's like, okay, that's really hard. But I always feel like it's like in a game like Among Us. Did you ever play Among Us?
Yeah.
Okay, with Among Us, you can at least be like, I have my little tasks. I'm gonna get them done.
Yeah, it is difficult in Among Us to lie.
Yes.
I think with Secret Hitler, that one, I feel like it's just difficult to be believed as liberal, because
that game is one of the few ones where it's like kind of fun to be on the bad side, because I'm like, all right, like, you have a little bit more power,
right?
In that.
And that one too is like, you still win. I guess most of them you still win if you still have enemies alive, but like that one specifically, it's like you're trying to push to get Hitler to win, and then you're like, we did it, baby,
right.
Commies win.
Anyway, so that tangent is brought to you by board games.
You can look up all these deception board games online.
If you're interested.
They're all good ones.
If you want to you thought Monopoly was bad for families and friends.
Yep. Yeah.
Bring
Wait
out
till you play one of these.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the film is taking place mostly exclusively in the dark, if you've noticed. And the only light source was like cell phones, headlamps, and glow tubes. So the cast actually had to be taught how to light the scene and themselves by the cinematographer. And he said that if any of the cast missed their timing, the scene was unusable because you'd only see like dark silhouettes. If you like watch it, they have to kind of strategize how they place themselves to make sure the room is still like lit. And I think the cinematographer also had a light that he would flash on the side to help provide more lighting.
Oh my god, that is nuts. It's because it's done so well, because you think about things like I just watched Cloverfield 2 weeks ago, and that one was like could be very, very dark at times, but it's like feels very chaotic, and it doesn't feel like, because it's just a person's camcorder that's lighting or whatever. Whereas this one, it did feel artistic, and it felt like
it was done and it was done strategically. But yeah, no, it was the lighting was done really well.
Yeah, there's times where I do love this, where sometimes all you see was like the neon lights that were around Alice's neck and stuff, which was really fun because it does force you to kind of see things in a different way, and as if you were there doing the game as well. It was pretty messed up that they threw B outside of the house in the middle of a hurricane.
I know. Yeah, they could have at least put her in a room.
Right. I thought that they were going to do that, and then no, they shove her out of the whole house.
Yeah, and she wouldn't have been able to gone in without the doggy door.
Right. She would have had to stay in the Jeep, which part of me was like, if I was her, I would have probably wanted to stay in the Jeep all night, because...
Yeah, if there was any thought that there was like a killer, like...
Yes.
Maybe it might be better to be out in the car.
Exactly.
But, yeah, supposedly there was supposed to be a killer in this movie.
Oh.
And then the director decided against it because they just weren't like feeling it. And I'm like, I feel like that it worked better that there wasn't a killer.
I think it did work better.
Yeah, it emphasized the satire of it, you know, because it is just like a satire of like slasher, and then at the end it's like, oh, there wasn't any
killer.
Exactly.
It definitely made it more interesting, and like in like a wanting to rewatch it kind of a way too.
Yeah,
because I mean, even in a regular whodunit, you're like, I want to watch it again because I want to see like how it plays out from that perspective. Yeah. But this one, you're like, oh, everything was just got worse and worse and worse because they're just agents of chaos.
Yeah.
They created their own demise.
Stupid.
Yeah.
No one knows how to communicate
and
with
there's
each
a lot
other.
of red herrings that they have as well. Like the fact that Max punched David in the face and left everyone.
Yes.
It's like, why did that happen? And probably because David is a douchebag, but...
Right.
But we don't really know what happened there.
And speaking of punches... Pete Davidson actually punched Lee Pace during the tequila slaps, but Lee Pace gave him permission to do that. So.
Oh my god.
And it was a hard punch.
Dude.
This I thought was a pretty funny response to a critic. So Amanda Stenberg, who played Sophie, messaged a New York Times film critic, Lena Wilson, after Wilson called the film a 95-minute advertisement for cleavage. And
I genuinely didn't notice any cleavage the whole time I was watching it. So someone was
if
like,
that's going to go to anything, it's going to be the Mean Girls musical, because...
Oh, yes, exactly.
The cleavage in that, I was like, whoa.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It was front center.
Oh, good heavens. But this movie, I was like, just...
No.
I don't know, tank tops? Like,
right.
what? So Amanda responded, "Your review was great. Maybe if you had gotten your eyes off my tits, you could have watched the movie." It's just like, it's like, what? Like, thinking about it, I'm like, there was really not a lot of cleavage.
No,
like,
I'm
at least not a lot where I was distracted.
No, like, I definitely noticed at the beginning with the swimsuits, because it's like Gen Z swimsuits. Like,
yeah.
They get
showing
smaller,
their ass
smaller,
and stuff.
You know, whatever. We're in granny bathing suit mode where it's like full coverage.
Like seeing a one piece at Target, I'm like, oh, look, this covers my rear end well.
Like, why would I want to wear a thong on the beach? No, thank you. But
no.
You know, if that's your calling, fine. No judgment.
Go for it.
It's just not going to be mine. So I noticed that like some of the bathing suits were like lower because I was afraid that they were going to pop out of them. But
Right.
that's all I can remember at this point in time.
Right. And at the beginning, you see most of the characters in the water.
Yeah, they're underwater,
like
holding their
floating.
breath.
And those are all the characters that die in the movie.
Oh,
So that's another
interesting.
cool little thing. Yeah.
Interesting. That yes, okay. That makes sense. Since Bee and Sophie are the only ones left alive.
Yeah. The kiss at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The director wanted to start the film with something sensuous and animalistic because the whole film is basically asking if we're civilized or beasts. So that was her purpose for
Okay.
the
I mean,
very sensuous and
I don't
animalistic
really
kiss.
know how that pulls up that question because I don't think making out makes you a beast, but I do think it makes me feel
I
uncomfortable.
guess because it was just not gross, but it's
Right.
very,
graphic.
intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just like a cute little...
Right,
like-
right. Just full shovage.
I mean, you let me get in there.
It was giving like high school boyfriend girlfriend saying goodbye to each other in the hallway before class because they won't see each other for an hour. Like that's what it reminded me of.
That's yep, exactly.
and that's why I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's also a lot of interesting stuff with the Bee and Sophie's relationship because right off the top in that first section, Sophie is saying that she loves Bee. And she's like, you don't have to say it back. And Sophie does, and Bee doesn't say it back.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting for multiple reasons. I think Sophie is just this super like over the top, touchy feely. There's this argument between Emma and David, and you find out that Emma has shared parts of their sex life with Alice, and David gets really upset, and Emma starts crying. And Sophie comes up around behind her and is like holding her and kissing her cheek and all this stuff. And I was like, imagine if I did that to Demi, what she would do. I think you would uppercut me.
I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
It's like it's too close. The
Yes.
kiss on the cheek, I'm like, whoa.
It's a lot.
Oh.
The only people I'll kiss on the cheek, my poor little sister, my youngest sister, is the only person in the world who I think I do that to. And I'm like, I just like mush her still, even though she's an adult woman at this point. And she definitely hates it. But that's the only person I could see doing that with. Sophie is just very much like,
Yeah, she's
like,
wears her heart on her sleeve.
Exactly.
Very emotional and
yes,
has love to give. And I think her and Bee were dating for like
6
2 months.
weeks.
6 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, you can tell you love someone within that,
Yes,
I guess. But
I think so.
Yeah, Bee, I think, definitely comes from a different background, and she's
Yes.
very...
more conservative, more
Yes.
shy about it. So there's like this very lovey relationship, and B is definitely more reserved. Like she is holding more back, and also she's like keeping some secrets and stuff, which is, you know, they
Yeah.
are newer. It's not going to be, maybe she doesn't know if she loves her yet, but I think it does enter and bring into some like interesting dynamics that later goes into play with like, at the end of the movie, Sophie fully trusts B, and B does not trust Sophie at all. And
Yeah. 'Cause she like points a gun at her.
yes,
Bee points a gun at Sophie.
and threatens
like,
and
"Give me
says,
your phone."
exactly. And it is interesting the tussle that like occurs after that, because if she was actually innocent of having, you know, an affair or whatever, then she wouldn't care, and she'd be like, yeah, take my phone. Also, we're broken
Her
up.
life is on the line.
Right. You're like, also, I would never die for keeping my secrets from my phone. Like, yeah, have my phone. Whatever. A 6-week relationship, you'll live if that's over. Especially if you have an affair. Like,
Yeah. So yeah, she throws her phone and they tussle over it. So I feel like that, if the underwear wasn't enough, that right there is like, okay, like, Sophie, what are you hiding here?
right. Not that any of it matters, because they're both probably going to end up in jail after this. There's no way they come away clean. At least B is going to get involuntary manslaughter. Like,
Yeah.
because she literally killed. There wasn't really much self-defense happening with the Greg incident.
No.
It was very
No,
minor.
I don't think so. Because he didn't really like lunge at anyone. He was just like kind of protecting himself too.
Right.
'Cause he was like, what the fuck's actually going on?
Yes, exactly.
It's just funny to see this like 6'5" man defend himself against like
4 like small ladies.
5.
Yeah.
No taller than 5'5" ladies.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's they're definitely not gonna be dating after this,
No.
and one or both will deal with some sort of jail time.
Yes. I would not be surprised. I can't imagine.
Sophie's parents got money, so she might
that's true.
be fine.
I don't know how, like, because I keep thinking about the aftermath of this and everything. It's like David's parents who own this mansion, like, first of all, you're never going to be able to get rid of that mansion because it's now the death place of how many people? 5? Ridiculous.
Too many.
Yeah, too many. So now they have this property, and I'm sure they don't need the money. But I think the only logical solution at that point is you need to burn down the house because it's going to be haunted.
Yeah.
No one should ever live there after that point. And then all their family, it's just sad. It's sad. They were just so dumb that they died. Like,
they really were so dumb.
They just
and like going through the house, they're gonna find all these drugs and crazy shit, and it's like, okay, well, that
played a big
also
role.
Is,
Wonder why.
So
I said
happens.
With the smasher passing of characters, and there's really no main villain. They all are villains. They all are main characters. And so, I mean, I guess B is like the mainest main character.
Yeah.
But at least if we're talking about the main duo, the duo that makes it at the beginning and the end, Sophie and B, I'm passing on both of them because they just have, there's two. I'm actually, there's no one in the movie who I would smash except for Max. Greg, so I was maybe in Greg, but what is called into question for me is he is someone who would go out with a girl in her early 20s, even though she's half your age, and then you want to go and hang out with all of her 20-year-old friends?
Yeah. So it's like this Greg, like,
what's wrong with you?
What is your social life here? Yeah.
Right. There feels like there's something wrong with you. And then he's doing all this coke and can't sleep. And I'm like, I'm not interested in dating someone who's going to do a thimble full of cocaine before bed. Like, seems like too much for me. So, Max, he didn't show me his bad side yet, so I don't know. Although he did mushrooms the night before. We know that about him. But you know what? Whatever.
Let it slide.
Yeah, I can give you that. But, like, I have yet to see his evilness, which I'm sure something bad would have happened to him if he was there. Especially because I was watching in the interview I watched about 10 minutes of an interview with the director, and she was saying that a big motivator for her was that there's evil in all of us and that everyone is capable of doing any of the things that happened in this film. It's just what are the circumstances surrounding it, which I think is interesting. Regardless, pass. Survival, I said already, was a 7, and would I recommend to a non-horror fan? I would, with the caveat of the amount of blood that is involved. It is more a comedy than anything else. I enjoyed it. I feel like it's worth watching for somebody who would enjoy that. A little bit more gore than I would personally like, which is why I had to rate it with a little bit of a curve. So I basically graded it as if it wasn't super gory. It wasn't horribly gory, but
it wasn't awful, but
I did have to cover my eyes at one point.
Yeah. It's still a slasher.
But I was like, you know what? I feel like this deserved a 4.
Okay.
Because I think that it was well done. It was funny. I enjoyed it. It kept me guessing. The biggest problem I had was with the gore. And that's really my biggest issue with all things is I don't like it when it's icky.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
Yeah.
With slashers, that's kind of my thing. I'm not really interested in slashers that much. And that's why I avoided watching this movie for a while until I heard good things about it. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll give it a shot. I like Pete Davidson. And I enjoyed it. So
yeah, it was good.
I think it's just hard to market slashers if there's something more unique to it. It's just like it's always going to come off as, oh, teenagers or
Right.
young people get killed. Like,
Right.
oh, love that. So cool, so fun. So,
Yeah.
I'm happy you enjoyed it.
Yes.
I thought you would like the comedy at least. So.
Yes, I did. I really enjoyed the comedy of it. All right, so the movie I've picked for Demi for next week, for our romance week, is The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. Your
Girl,
face?
what the fuck is that? What is that?
Okay,
what is it? Hold on.
Okay.
The Gurney?
The Guernsey.
Because I'm not going to remember this.
Okay, ready?
Okay.
The Guernsey. Guernsey.
Okay.
Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society.
Jesus Christ. Peel Pie Society.
Yes.
Better have a hot lead.
Well, I feel like you and I have different tastes, so
Oh, no.
No, I think you
No.
might, but he's like a little bit on the skinnier side, but he's bearded and dark haired. So
I mean, I like Timothy.
I mean,
And according
okay.
to Brett, he's just a scarecrow without hay.
He's yeah, that's fair. Oh my god. And so the only place to watch this is Netflix. So this movie is basically about a small island off of England or whatever. I'm probably wrong. It's called Guernsey.
What?
So I know. Multiple times. I've seen this movie multiple times. So the island is called Guernsey, and essentially it's under German occupation during World War II.
Oh, man.
Yes. So
Is this going to be sad? Oh. Oh, no.
if I'm being honest, I was saving this one for the common thread there's a war on, but
Oh, wait.
what?
Did I watch this?
Did you?
I may have watched this.
How dare you? Did you like
And
it?
I don't even know the name. Well, I don't remember it, so probably not.
Oh, you're so fake.
I think I did watch this. For some reason, I watched it. Okay.
I can't
Keep
believe
going.
that you watched it.
I can't believe it either, but I think because I like Lily James, I was like, oh, I'll support her.
Yeah.
The main guy is attractive, I will say.
Okay.
So it's fine. I'll rewatch it
Okay.
with open eyes. I don't remember when I watched this.
Okay, well, as a refresher for you, in the early 1940s, there is an author. She's a woman, and she is communicating with this literary society in Guernsey, which is known as the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. And she wants to write about the German occupation that occurred there. She travels, she visits them, and it's kind of about how she builds relationships with the people in this group. And it tells the story of their time during the occupation and the tragedies that befell the group, as well as the triumphs that will continue on in the future.
I think I watched this because I like historical, like kind of like war movies.
That's news.
And
I didn't know you liked
Really?
war movies.
I
movies.
do. I can't watch them a lot though because they're pretty heavy.
They're
Like
very
like
heavy.
movies that are around like World War II. And
Okay,
one and...
interesting. So what you're
Yeah.
telling me is that you're a middle-aged man. Got it. You're like, Megan, do you want to know some fun facts about me, Megan? Well, not only do I love westerns.
I like westerns and war movies.
Who are you?
It's a piece of history. You learn about
Listen,
history. And
I
a
get-
lot of these you get a visual into,
Yeah.
the soldiers' lives, or like things that aren't in history books and are not displayed as like grandeur and great. It's like, no, this is real shit. This is sad. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
7 years in and I'm still learning about you.
I know, look at me.
Look at you, keeping me surprised.
Keeping you on
I
your
love,
toes.
yeah, always. I mean, listen, I love historical fiction and stuff, but I'm not like, give me the war. Ooh. Is it
think the last-
devastating and sad? Yeah. Yum, 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 yum.
Nom nom. The last one I watched was it Dunkirk or
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I know it's supposed
or
to be
Knights I forget which one it was. It was like about a soldier that was like a German soldier in World War II, and he is like a kid, and it's like from the viewpoint of like kids being brainwashed into serving
Jojo
their
Rabbit?
country. It's not Jojo Rabbit, but that's
Jojo
a good
Rabbit
one too.
was good.
No, it's like they're just like soldiers, and it's just from the viewpoint of them like on the battlefield and how absolutely devastating it was. And
Cool.
you feel
Must
awful.
have been really heartwarming.
It was awful. I didn't think it was gonna be that devastating, but it broke me. So I'm like, well, that's enough war movies for now.
Well, not anymore, baby.
Look at me.
Time to break that fast.
It's fine. I'm excited.
I don't think it's that sad. Like, it's got like sad moments, but nothing that's gonna punch you in the face, you know?
No, I think when I watched it, I remember like being it wasn't what I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
So, but I like Lily James, so
yeah.
the name I did not remember at all. Like that.
I mean, it's a mouthful.
You would think I would.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. So
it's unique.
But
so.
yeah, I've seen it. I couldn't even tell you how many times. I've definitely seen it a few. So
okay, all right. Let's
Yeah.
see how I review it.
well,
I have to try and think of the thread now.
Yeah. good luck.
I don't know. So.
I don't think you're gonna get it. I think it's gonna be
Okay.
too much of a deep cut. But
Too obscure. Okay.
maybe you will. Maybe after listening back to the podcast, you'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
that was an interesting thing that Megan said.
Okay.
Was that connected? Or maybe you'll be like, F you, Megan. You're not doing this again.
It's the yellow panties.
There was a period of time where I was like, I wonder if I could find some way to get yellow paint. And I was like, that's too much of a deep cut for me. I'm not looking up movies with yellow panties. Can't.
You can find us on Instagram at How Do You Watch This and on TikTok at How Do You Watch. And you can email us at howdoyouwatchthis@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
That's all I got to say.
See if you can figure out the common thread for next week. Watch the movie. Join us back here. And if Netflix is impressed by their increased subscriber count, we are open to sponsorship.
Netflix, yeah, we will sponsor. We will read an ad for your greedy ass.
It would be nice to help support my mom for once instead of having her support me and my needs.
Yeah, you don't even have Netflix. We don't. We're just like leeching off our parents. It's the millennial way.
Yep.
Anyway.
All right.
See y'all later.
Bye.